Welcome back to BatBreak.com. I'm Nick, again joined with Dan Cleary and Steve Masi. We're sitting here talking about home run bats, game-used bats that were used for a specific home run in a major league game. We're probably sitting with, $250,000 worth of lumber here today, guys.
We're just talking about it. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, a reasonable number.
If we think about what these were bought for and maybe what they're worth, I think that might be even be low.
It's really amazing, and I guess to that point, why so much? Why the boost in value for a home run bat?
I feel like it's obvious that you have a choice to buy a bat from your favorite player or one that he hit a home run with. Mm-hmm. That bat's going to carry a pretty hefty premium in I would think in almost every case.
Right.
It's the most exciting thing to see in a baseball game, besides like a triple play or something like that. But we like home runs. That's what we want our guys to do.
Yep.
Right.
And
they differentiate themselves from other bats, as we've seen. There's more and more bats now. At least modern players hitting the hobby, hitting the market. So if you have a bat that was used for a specific home run, whether you photo matched it or is inscribed as such, now it kind of stands alone.
Well, it's also, I think it's safe to note, these are all fairly modern bats. I mean, the oldest bat here is going to go back to the late 90s, I think, right?
Yeah, 96.
Between high definition photography and authentication from the teams or the league, it's a lot easier to pick out verified home run bats.
You definitely have home run bats in your collection that you're not.
Well, yeah, it's so hard. It's hard when you're trying to photo match bats from the 60s and 70s. It's just not easy.
Yep.
It got a lot easier.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is a great thing.
Yep.
And now you're getting to a point with the current guys like Mike Trout here, where you get a 2017 Mike Trout bat. Collectors almost want it to be a home run bat, as opposed to when you're buying a Willie Mays bat. There's no chance.
It's way in the back of your mind. It's way in the back of your mind. Way in the back of your mind.
Right. Now, as far as the bats go, some players are known to inscribe their bats, whether they have a marketing deal and they inscribe all bats that were used for a home run. They set them aside or mark them in a manner where they could keep track. Other players do not. People that come to mind, someone like an A-Rod inscribed. There's a ton of A-Rod home run bats out there.
Yeah, I think guys obviously got hip to it.
Right.
When did A-Rod start doing that?
In Seattle, you see some early ones.
Yeah, there's some early stuff.
Wow.
But the Yankees, like right now in particular, a lot were just sold.
Mm-hmm. It feels like he probably had a lot that he was stashing away and eventually let go of.
Yeah, and if you don't have an A-Rod home run bat at this point, you've been you're not an A-Rod collector.
Do we have one here? Is there one here?
There is, or maybe it's not out here.
Okay.
It's back in the office. And another guy like an Albert Pujols, who's hit a ton of home runs, doesn't inscribe hardly any of his home run bats. You have to almost photo match them. I've seen maybe 3 or 4 bats that Albert inscribed for charities or as a gift. So when you're discussing home run bats, you have to know the player and how rare it is to find one. For example, this Eddie Murray bat here, this bat was used by Eddie in 1996 to hit career home run number 499, and he inscribed it as such. And they simply don't exist. I mean, for years and years, you never ever saw an Eddie Murray home run bat on the market. And recently, I think he released about 5 of them.
Yeah,
5 or 6.
I saw they all kind of came out at once.
Right. So a player, Eddie, for example, held him in his closet. He told me he had him in a sock in his closet.
And you met him in person to get this bat.
Yeah, bought this bat direct from Eddie. Couldn't be a nicer guy. The story I was told was with some of the wildfires out in California recently. I believe he had a scare and it came close to his property, and he said, I'm sitting on all this cool memorabilia. What if my house burns down one day? I'm just sitting in my closet, might as well sell it. So something like this, and Eddie Murray is a lot more scarce than, let's say, even a Miguel Cabrera that we have here, this Sam bat, which this is a inscribed home run bat. Not a ton of them out there, but Miggy's a very generous signer. So like this one was originally photo matched to a home run. And I mailed it to the Tigers or to Miggy, and he signed and inscribed it with the date in 2015.
That's great. A lot of guys won't do that.
Right.
He also has one of the best signatures in the game. A very nice signature.
Yeah, you see some of the guys with the sloppier writing, some of the current players. But yeah, so there's different ways to go about it where you could match them and then have them inscribed. I don't know if you guys have had any luck going that route, or do you typically, obviously if it's already out there, you're going to pay a premium, but it's been matched and
I was able to photo match a couple JD Martinez 2018 World Series season home run bats, and all he wanted was to see the match. He wanted just to be convinced, and he would sign. So it wasn't. He didn't take your word for it. He wanted proof before he would do that, which I appreciate.
feel better as a collector that that's the case.
Yep.
Instead of hey, pay me X and I'll write whatever you want.
Which I think is probably the majority. Is if someone's doing a signing, they'll sign whatever you want if you pay for it, which is too bad.
Right. I've gone that route as well, sending into Chipper Jones and Derek Jeter, like this Jeter bat here, where I actually sent the proof, the photo match with the letter of authenticity, showing that this bat was used in 2010 for career home run number 230.
Incredible. And he was willing to, obviously.
Yeah, it was already signed and inscribed and sold through Steiner Sports, which those of you that don't know, Derek Jeter sold just about all of his game-used bats, right, through Steiner. But wouldn't inscribe them typically. Then later, this bat was sent to him, and he was willing to inscribe it once he saw the match. And it would add significant value because there's a ton of Derek Jeter bats out there. There's a handful of home run bats, but there's really, how many inscribed home run bats have you seen?
No.
And he also wasn't a prolific home run hitter.
Right, he didn't hit. This was homer number 230 towards the end of his career.
And that's a late career bat.
Right.
He didn't hit 300, did he?
No, I think he ended 270-ish range, somewhere around there. But a ton of use, just a great bat. You can see it's got a pretty significant crack here, which I've got a photo match too. So pretty neat. And again, you just don't see many of them signed and inscribed like that.
Spot right there.
And the guy that we have right next to him here, I'll grab this Ken Griffey Jr. bat. Now, Griffey was known to sell home run bats. There's actually quite a few of them.
Yes.
He had a deal through
Was it Mill Creek Sports? Up in Washington?
Yep, in Seattle. So he was selling these back in the day during his playing days when he was as popular as could be. From multiple seasons, to early 90s through, I've seen him up to 99-ish. So you think about how many home runs he hit during that time. So there's quite a few of them, but they're in such high demand that you don't see a ton of them today because most collectors are
squirreled away.
on.
And these are not bats people are sort of getting rid of quickly.
Right. This was for a generation the most popular player. So for how many of them that he did sell and make available to public, they're not that easy to find, and they sell for 2-3 times a Griffey that's not inscribed.
I was going to ask, we should talk about pricing a little bit too. What is something like that? What can people expect to pay in 2019 for a bat like that?
Something like this, I'm guessing would go in the 7,000 range, around there. And if it wasn't a home run bat, it was a nice Griffey, it's probably selling for half that, 3,500.
And what about this Miggy?
Miggy is tough. He's had a couple down years. I would say that's probably going 3,500 range today. A non-home run bat might be, 2,000-ish, 1,800. But a couple years ago, pre-injuries and off the Triple Crown, you could get 5-6 for that.
In saying that, I think that's, without going on too much of a tangent here, I think that's where you get into the sort of where people get into peril with current players. Like, if you're going to collect current players, collect them because you want the bats, not because you're hoping it's going to do this. Because if a guy has a couple down years or gets into some scandal,
right?
And look at A-Rod. A-Rod was on his way to being the greatest hitter of all time.
Of course, perfect example.
But also, it seems like he's also on the way back up a little bit at the moment, price-wise.
I think as time goes on, but it
Bonds is on the way up again.
You can't. I feel like you can't get into picking it. If you want a Miggy bat, you should buy it because you want it. Or any bat, not because you think, wow, if I buy this, it's going to, in 10 years, I'm going to be able to double my money. Because then you're in it for the wrong reason.
Thank you.
And you're probably going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Right. And there are guys that are going to buy bats to try to flip them and make money, and there's nothing wrong with that. No. There's an inherent risk with the current players. It's riskier. I bought a really nice rookie A-Rod bat, I think, 2 days before he got popped for steroids. I literally bought it,
bad timing.
And 2 days later, it's worth a third of the price. Yeah. And it's slowly starting to come back, but there's so much A-Rod stuff out there that it's tough. So that's the risk. But then you've got guys like Mike Trout. We've got Trout here, where most people would tell you, he's overpriced or it's a bad time to buy. Yet since he came in the league in 2011, he's done nothing.
You're going to, for for every Mike Trout, there's going to be
Right.
20 A-Rods, but he's Mike Trout.
Yeah.
And that
It
keeps
seems like
chugging along.
as sure thing as it could be.
Right, and it's and you got to pay for him, and people have been waiting for him to cool off and for his prices to come down. And who knows if he would unfortunately miss the season, what would happen to his prices? But this was a bat he used to hit a home run in 2015. And speaking of Mike Trout, we got another young phenom here. And Juan Soto, this is a really cool
It's a pretty special bat here.
This is one you might remember. This was literally just used about a month ago in the NLDS against the Dodgers, the famous home run that Soto hit off Kershaw to tie that game. I think he put it halfway up the bleachers in right center.
This thing buckled Kershaw in half.
Yeah. This is an incredible bat.
There's an incredible photo of Soto running to first, and Kershaw's in the background, just
crushed,
devastated, hands on his head. It's an old hickory. You've got the American stripe lizard grip on here.
Great look.
You got the knob decal with his number 22, Washington Nationals.
That's amazing.
You even have the W here on the grip. It's signed and inscribed. This bat was actually used for the entire NLDS, so he hit 2 home runs with it. And then he used it in the first game of the NLCS versus St. Louis, and he went a couple of bats without getting a hit. I think he struck out with the bases loaded, and that was it. The bat's no good anymore. Stopped using it.
It's really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you can see he's got Soto Pacheco on the barrel, which is his full family name, his maternal and paternal name, which is neat. Just incredible.
That's pretty incredible.
The owner is not here, so we won't talk about how much it cost.
Right.
But it was pretty expensive to obtain something like this so quickly after the series.
You think about Soto's stock right now, as opposed to even 2 months ago before the playoffs started and what he's done. So now he's up in Mike Trout territory almost as far as his demand and what people are paying. And there's a lot fewer Soto bats out there as opposed to Trout's, obviously. So, I mean, talk about a cool piece of history, and I'm sure any Nationals fan would love to own this, hold it, take a swing with it, and Dodger fans probably want you to toss it in the trash can because it's some painful memories. And speaking of demand, going back to Trout real quick, I mean, there's no shortage of Trout stuff out there.
No,
right,
it's out
Steve?
there. He's done a great job of marketing his stuff, which is smart. And people want it.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, some guys will decide to go the route of signing with a marketing agency who handles their equipment, their game use memorabilia, and Trout's gone that route with Anderson Authentics. And it's great.
And it stayed loyal to Anderson Authentics from the get-go.
He seems like a pretty loyal guy in general.
Yeah. Why else would you sign with the Angels for that long?
For that long.
But it's great. He makes his stuff available as opposed to Bryce Harper, who really
notoriously is the opposite.
Keeps a lot of his stuff, and there's not a lot of Harper stuff out there.
I want to talk about real quick, if you don't mind. There's when certain players are coming up on milestones, you'll see them start to keep track of home runs, and we have a couple. I'm a big Ortiz guy, and you have a really nice Ortiz home run bat.
Mm-hmm.
In 2015, he was chasing 500 home runs, and you have a really nice bat right there, which you can see he does a countdown kind of thing.
Right. This was game used. Was it 6/21/15, which I believe was Father's Day, versus the Royals off Young. I believe Chris Young was the pitcher. Homer 476.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this tied Lou Gehrig possibly.
Oh,
there was someone there he tied or passed against the Marucci with the bright yellow lizard skin
got everything
grip.
you want on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit of tar. No, it doesn't have the knob decal, but it's great. So he was, like Dan was saying, as he was approaching that milestone, he started setting these bats aside. Sometimes multiple home runs in the same bat, or is he typically?
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah.
When he was leading up to 500, it was like one and done. He hit a homer, it came out and got hollowed, and then after 500, he kind of went back to just using them as much as he wanted.
Right. And that's real quick. I mean, that's an interesting point with these maple bats that they were just, they're supplied so many of them and the quality is pretty similar when you're a star that they would just pull them after hitting a home run. Yeah. Whereas Willie Mays, when he has a nice cut of white ash and nice grains, he's using that bat as long as he possibly can, But with the maples, they're pretty similar in quality.
While we're on Ortiz, I just want to show maybe easily one of my favorite bats in my whole collection. Obviously pink, which is a Mother's Day bat. Ortiz, final season, home run against the Yankees. This is his final 2 home run game of his career.
Oh, wow.
I think he had 52 2 homer games.
Did he hit them both with it? Did he use?
Nope.
Some of those guys use the pink bat for one at bat,
So
and then they put it away.
He used this and hit his first home run of the game, and then it got pulled. But we'll show a close up later. But you can see a perfect transfer of the Mother's Day balls have a pink ribbon on the ball.
Yep.
And there's a perfect transfer where their home run was, which is really neat.
That's really cool.
Such a cool bat.
But
It's
just
amazing that ink transfer,
it's
how
cool.
prominent it is.
But just as far as being an Ortiz collector, just a pink final season home run against New York is just a
Yankee
beautiful
Stadium.
thing. And he never had a 3-homer game, which blows my mind.
Wow, I would have never guessed.
Hit 541 homers and never had a 3-homer game.
The pink bats are.
You got one there too.
Yes, this is a 2016 Ryan Braun. Let's see if I can not have a calamity here. Mother's Day bat. He used this to hit a home run. He actually used the bat for the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys don't do that. Some guys like Jeter was known for go up there the first at bat,
And go back to the black
and then go
bats.
back to the black bat. He went 2 for 3 with this. There's really, I'm guessing, that same impression was the home run.
Mm-hmm.
The Mother's Day bats generally don't show that much wear because it's a 1-game deal, sometimes 1-at-bat deal.
And now, actually, they're using them now for multiple days.
Oh, they're
I
doing
think
it
Mother's Day
over the
Mother's Day
weekend.
weekend.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's got
Still.
Braun characteristics. He's got the the motor stick here, and the Mother's Day bats when they first came out, they were a huge deal.
Right.
And then I feel like they waned in value a little bit. They're not as in demand, but when it comes to they're cool because there's not that many of them. And when you get one that's a documented home run bat, how do you say?
Pretty cool.
It's cool. How do you say no to
Right.
that?
Yep.
So fun.
Yeah, the craze when those first came out.
The craze was
amazing.
What was it, 2005
It's been a
or
while
6?
now.
Yeah,
Something
somewhere
like that?
around there. Really neat. And when you see one of these in person, I mean, the color just pops at you. And it's for obviously a great cause. A lot of these are auctioned off for breast cancer.
Susan G. Komen Foundation.
yeah.
Yep.
So really cool bats.
What else do we have here?
Another one, I'll touch on the
I
McGwire
was gonna say,
bat. So
that
this
would
is
be-
one of my favorite home run bats. And if you were alive in 1998, you probably remember the famous home run chase between Sammy Sosa and McGwire when they were chasing down Roger Maris. I was 16 years old. I remember it like it was yesterday. So this was a bat that Mark McGwire used to hit home runs number 46 through 49 that summer. And a really cool part about it was he was actually 2 or 3 of them were hit against the Cubs in Wrigley, and one was at Busch. So against Sosa, and they were just jockeying for position. Sosa would take the lead, and then McGwire hit one on the Sheffield Avenue out of Wrigley to take the lead. They're going back and forth.
I mean, it's one of the best summers ever for baseball fans.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who doesn't remember where they were when he hit number 70?
I was at Fenway Park watching the Yankees beat the Red Sox out in the bleachers, and they stopped the game to announce it.
That's amazing. That's cool.
And this was pre-internet for the most part and cell phones. You would have to tune in to Sports Center at night, read the newspaper, listen to the radio, and you were following every day to see who hit a home run. He hit a game winner at Wrigley in the 10th inning with this bat. So just a really cool piece of baseball history, American history, really. You could see it's got quite a substantial crack, a ton of use, but a pretty neat bat. And there are not many of these. There's one in Cooperstown, and I know of one other. He was so popular then that he was giving these to friends and teammates and umpires.
There's a lot of 98 bats that are floating around that have little to no use on them.
There's a lot of fake 98 bats, a lot of issue bats. He was shipped so many that year.
And how did this one get out into the public?
This was a pretty cool story. He was at Shea Stadium playing the Mets, and he broke this bat early on, I believe his first at bat, and handed it to a little girl in the stands. There's actually the news clipping was saved from the news that night, handing the girl the bat, the look of excitement on her face and shock. And then they actually interviewed her post-game, and she said that she'll never sell the bat. She was offered...
So she's here now.
Yeah, right. It's actually not mine, it's hers. But she was offered a pair of Celine Dion tickets, which is huge.
I mean, how do you not take
Celine?
Celine?
I think $1,000 cash. I believe she ended up selling it a year later. So she got a price she couldn't say no to, and then it was auctioned off many years later, actually this year. So
now, did you photo match it, or did you know what it was when you bought it?
it was photo matched to home run number 49, which was at Shea, I believe, and I matched it to the 3 prior home runs. When you look at the wear, I mean, the name's completely worn off.
It's
the barrel.
obviously he liked that bat.
Right, and you could see that his finger imprints here of when he gripped this bat. So just, I mean,
It's an
a
amazing
pretty
bat.
neat piece to have. It would be great to find a 98 Sosa to pair with it. If you guys ever come across one,
I'll
let
let
me
you
know.
know.
They're
And
hard to find.
You bought this at auction?
At an auction. So for those of you that don't know that this stuff's even out there available, there's a lot of great auction houses.
Yeah, there's some really good ones.
Yeah.
So I got to know what does something like this go for at auction? I mean, people can find out, so it's not.
Yeah, I
it's
mean
kind of
this
public.
it went for $27,000, which is not cheap. Obviously, I felt that.
You felt better about matching it to more home runs.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
it
of
was
course.
undervalued a little bit. It was sold during the summer, which isn't the best time to sell items. Typically, people are traveling with their families, spending money on family vacations. I found really time to sell around the holiday. February, when people get their tax money back in
That tends to be
April, it really pops. So I thought there was some value there. And then just as a baseball fan, McGwire fan, it was one of those things. You never know if you'll have the opportunity again.
Absolutely.
To,
And
that
we've all been
season.
there where you're like, if I don't buy it now,
Right.
That's how I felt about the pink Ortiz. It's
It's-
the only bat I have about 300 or 400 bats, and this is the only one I ever talked to my wife about first.
Yeah, right. You gotta-
we don't share finances, but I just wanted to I just want to make sure that I'm not out of my mind.
well,
And
we,
that-
we clearly are.
Of course,
Right,
of course.
yeah.
I mean, that one was $6,000 when I got it,
Mhm.
and then one sold. The other home run bat, which had less use, sold for a couple months later for I think over 10. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, I try to ask myself whenever we're making substantial purchases like this, what would I do if tomorrow this thing just plummeted in value? It's worth $1,000. Would I still enjoy it, looking at it
of
and
course,
owning
yeah.
it? So
Yep.
therefore, if it was a player that I did not like and I just bought it strictly for an investment and it plummeted, I wouldn't even want to see that bat anymore. I'm like, get this thing out of here, you know. But whatever happens to the value, it's something that I could enjoy, sit
Of course,
on, and
yeah. You want to,
always
first and foremost, none of us got into this with the idea of let's make money.
Right.
We got into it because it's
So I want to ask you guys earlier, actually, why bats? Why baseball over other sports, as far as collecting?
First of all, I'm an East Coast guy. I mean, I've lived in the West Coast for longer than I lived in the East Coast, but I grew up in a big baseball family. We were all baseball fans. I do enjoy other sports, but for me, it's always been about baseball. I did have a lot of cards when I was a kid, but by the time I was 11 or 12 years old, I couldn't. You're a little younger than me, so you went through the card boom again.
Right.
I was during the card lull.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't really care about cards. And, I got that first bat when I was 9 years old. I was like, this is cool. And then when I got older and was out on my own and realized you could actually own these things, I just thought it's way cooler than a card. I'm not a big autograph guy. Most of the autographs, all the autographs I have on bats were on the bats when I got them. Any autographs that I have that are not on bats have literally just been gifts from, through my job and friends and things like that. So for me, I just thought it was cool, Listen, a bat that Hank Aaron swung in a baseball game is a piece of American history.
Oh yeah.
It's way cooler to me than a card or an autograph.
And it's just so personal. It's more than like a
Oh,
football that was thrown, or
Right.
even jerseys. Or
Well,
jerseys
jerseys come from the team they're issued.
Mhm.
And so you're going to wear this jersey.
You choose these. Yeah.
You choose these, you prep them the way you want. It's just so much more of a connection to the player, I feel.
Yeah, similar to Steve. Baseball was just a religion basically in our family growing up. Dad, a big baseball fan, Yankee fan from New Jersey. That's what we talked about was baseball. And I played high school and some college. So to me, hitting is an art. It really is the toughest thing to do in any sport. And these are pieces of art to me, really. I mean, you think about the money that some of these go for, and you hang them on a wall just like you would a Picasso almost, that it's a piece of art. This is a piece of history.
Absolutely.
And the art of hitting, and these are the tools that these guys use. So it's pretty neat. I've dabbled in some football stuff, autographs, cards, but nothing. People gravitate to a game used bat more than any other piece of memorabilia, in my opinion.
I believe so. They come in your house and
Right.
they see it. And they're like, well, what's that?
Right.
That's pretty cool.
And just to hold it and to know what was done with it is pretty cool.
Yeah, so, and they're all so different. It's pretty neat. But the home run bats, I think, are just going to increase in popularity and demand as more people get in the hobby. And again, there's more, it seems like more than ever, there's more auctions these days. There's more people selling on eBay or other market platforms that buyers, I think, are starting to get a little pickier, a little smarter with their
think-
dog.
well,
It's a lot of money. So
Agreed. And hopefully people are doing their homework.
yeah,
There's a lot more information on the internet now than when, in the 90s when I started collecting. It's the Wild West. You were just trying to figure it out as you went, and if you could meet anybody that knew anything more than you, talk to them.
right.
Yeah, I mean, when I first got into collecting, you were one of the first guys that I was put in touch with through a mutual friend,
Yeah,
and helped me tremendously.
yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's great to, like you said, I mean, there's people that sold bats that were signed and inscribed, players that we know that were less than honest, let's say, on when the bat was used. Or maybe they just did a poor job of keeping track keeping records. So there was a few prominent players out there that signed bats, and you kind of got to do your research still. Even if it's signed and inscribed, it's not a slam dunk that this bat was used for that particular home run. I've owned some. Found the image of that game, and he's swinging a black bat instead of a
bat.
We've
all gotten burned.
And then there's no worse feeling. You just that bat,
the
all of a
sinking
sudden,
feeling.
you just want to throw it away.
Yep.
But this is definitely a popular thing among collectors these days. Steve touched on it earlier, having a focus to your collection, or else your head could start spinning and you're buying everything. This was a route that I went at a certain point, was focusing on home run bats. And it's definitely a popular thing that's going to keep getting more and more popular, especially if you could find some guys pre-internet days, I would say, pre-2000-ish. I mean, the 96, this is 98. That's really all we have, I think, out here. That's pre.
Yeah, for the most stuff, this is all modern stuff.
Right, so anything pre-internet, I mean, is just a diamond in the rough.
What year is the Frank Thomas there?
This is 07, I believe. This is a Frank Thomas home run bat he used for home run number 499, which is cool. The odds of getting a 500 home run bat are slim to none. They're typically going in the Hall of Fame, or the players holding on to it. So this is about as close as you could get, 499 or 501. I know the Murray's 499. I think Ortiz sold 499, 501. This is a Hoosier brand.
Ortiz sold all of them.
All of them.
He sold his last home run, but he sold everything.
Which is pretty cool. So, this is an off-brand, something different that Frank just really liked to field these Hoosier bats once they stopped making Worth, and he got away from Rawlings. So we also have Vladdy. I think this is one of the ones we haven't talked about. This is another Route 66, another kind of off-brand. But look at the tar on this
Filthy
thing.
bats.
I mean, no batting gloves.
Yeah, he had great bats.
Yeah. No batting gloves, pine tar everywhere. Another guy that would turn the bat in his hand, so there'd be seam marks everywhere. I was told Vlad wasn't a big fan of inscribing his bats, but he would get coerced eventually. And, so there's a few of them out here. But another guy, you got to do your homework. There are unfortunately some Vlad signed and inscribed home run bats out there that
are not.
That may not have been used, that were used, but just maybe for a different game. Mm-hmm. So hopefully you guys got something out of this. I think home run bats are some of the coolest bats out there.
Agreed.
If you could find some, you're going to pay a premium, but you can't go wrong when you're going for a piece of history that was used for a home run.